Hello everybody, today I want to be going over Disc Priest in 7.1.5, what's changed from my last guide. I probably won't make it as long, but we'll try and get out as much information as we can in a very short period of time. So first off, we'll go over talents. Nothing's really changed to tier 15. Castation is the way to go. Schism just costs too much mana, so you can't actually afford to use Schism. And the Penitent, you'll always want to be healing through your atonements, so there is no reason to be using the Penitent. For level 30, the only choice is Angelic Feather. So Angelic Feather you can have with a macro, and it's just a personal speed boost. You can also just use the spell and give other people speed boosts. We'll link that macro below. But yeah, so you want to be taking Feather over Body and Soul because Body and Powered Shield, is rotational. So if you need a personal run speed to get somewhere, you can't be using your Powered Shield because you should be using it on cooldown. Masochism isn't a bad talent, just that 10% damage reduction really isn't ever going to outweigh the value of Feather. Level 45, it has just some Mythic plus niche uses. So I won't go over them. Level 60, you just want to be taking Shield Discipline. Now the whole idea between taking Shield Discipline is that it gives back the most mana. Powered Solace does give back a comparable amount of mana considering it's a free spell. It's just it introduces an extra global cooldown into your rotation, and it's not something that is ideal. So Shield Discipline is the best talent to take for level 60. So level 75, you have Contrition. Really is the go-to option. You can take Twist of Fate if you're getting a really large amount of uptime from it. You just have to weigh up the fact that if there's a lot of AoE damage, especially going out in the fight, having extra atonements out for extra durations can actually be more value than having just a really high uptime on Twist of Fate. So generally you always just want to be taking Contrition. 3 extra seconds is a pretty big deal. So level 90, you really again only have one choice, and that is Halo. So Halo will heal all your atonements. Clarity of Will is kind of a no-no in all situations just because it's not healing your atonements, and that's the whole idea of Disc. And then when we compare Divine Star to Halo, Divine Star does the same thing. Halo does the same thing Divine Star, just in 3 times less globals and a lot less mana. Alright, so level 100. The change to Shadow Covenant still is not viable, does not heal your atonements, does not apply atonements, will never, be good for the Disc Priest. And between Grace and Purge of the Wicked, you always want to basically be taking Purge of the Wicked because you're never going to be spot healing as a Disc Priest. So Shadow Mend costs too much mana to actually be using to spot heal. So you never actually want to be healing somebody that already has atonement or reapplying atonements to somebody that already has atonement. So Grace really does not get any value in a raid. Now that is different in a Mythic plus dungeon, but in a raid, Purge of the Wicked is the go-to. It costs less mana, can spread. Even if it doesn't spread, you're still going to be getting more value out of Purge of the Wicked than you are Grace. Alright, so next we're going to be talking about stats. So for Disc Priest, you primarily want to be prioritizing Haste and Mastery for raid healing. They're going to be your highest throughput. Now, the idea with stacking a lot of Haste is that your mana regen scales off Powered Shield, and these 2 spells also scale with Haste. So your mana regeneration scales with Haste, therefore Haste isn't as bad for your mana as, say, it would be on a Holy Priest, where you don't have any mana regen mechanics that are tied to Haste at all. So, stacking a lot of Haste on a Disc Priest does not have the negative effect it would have on other healers. And then the idea why Haste is so strong is because when you apply Atonement, you have a static Atonement duration. And so the higher Haste you have, the more globals you can get off between each of the... the more globals you can get off between each Atonement. And that's the whole idea behind Disc, is making sure you're pumping out as much healing within Atonement windows as possible. Haste Mastery is for raid healing. Crit, it will be your 3rd best stat, followed by Versatility. All 4 of the stats are fairly good for the Disc Priest, so don't be too put off, say, with a piece of Versatility. Having a little bit of Versatility will be pretty beneficial to your class, just because of how the multiplicative stats work together. So, high crit, high mastery, high haste, you can't go wrong. Prioritize haste, try and get above, ideally, pretty much every piece you want to have haste on it except for tier pieces. You do want to be going for the 4-piece when you can, if possible. And for trinkets, now trinkets comes down to how much mana you're going to be using in a raid and how much mana you have accessible to you. So if you have, 2 innovates, 3 innovates, Blessing of Wisdom, you don't need to be running 2 mana trinkets. You can get away with running things like Urn, you can get away with running the Brine Water Slime from Helya. If you get that, any stat on that will be good to use. So just high item level stat sticks is the way to go if you have enough mana to not be using your 2 mana trinkets. But if you don't have access to the 2 innovates, Blessing of Wisdoms, kind of just feel out how much mana you're using in the fight, and then equips either Amalgam and 7th Spine or Darkwing Deck Promises as you wish. So Promises will return you more mana, and then followed by 7th Spine. So right now I have 2 innovates and a Blessing of Wisdom in my grip, and I can get away fairly easily with using an Urn and my Darkwing Deck Promises. I probably don't need to be using Promises, I just don't have another high item level stat stick. So into raid healing, I'll actually probably get up some footage so we can go over what I do. Alright, so this is some Crosus gameplay. Now Crosus is probably the ideal fight for a Disc Priest. Lots of burst damage going out to the raid, a high DPS check on Mythic, not Heroic as per se, but there is a high DPS check when you get to Mythic. And there's fairly set points when you can plan out, say, things like innovates, your raptures and whatnot. And that's the whole key to Disc Priest, is planning what you're going to be doing. So you'll find in a lot of these heroic kills that I have at the moment, because I'm not up to Mythic, that my gameplay is nowhere near optimal. My innovate timings aren't perfect, etc, etc, and that's just because we haven't actually attempted the boss. We've only done this boss, say, 3-4 tries at most. So when I'm going into this on heroic, I don't have a plan set out for what I'm going to be doing. I'm kind of just calling for innovates on the fly. So gameplay not anywhere optimal, not perfect at all, but it is kind of just the best I have at the moment to show off what you should be doing as a Disc Priest. So the whole idea is you want to be trying to get out as many atonements before burst phases as possible. That's your whole role as a Disc Priest. You're not a spot healer. You're not there to just fluff up the raid with, say things like rejuves like a druid does. You're there to do burst healing when burst damage comes. And the whole philosophy behind that is, you need to be preemptive with how many atonements you're getting out. You need to be, preferably atoning the whole raid with something like an innovate or a rapture, or even just burning through some mana. So when burst damage is coming out, you want to be preemptively getting up to 5 atonements with Plea and Power Word Shield. Then you want to be using your Power Word Radiance to get from that 5 to 17 to 20. And then after you get to that high amount of atonement, you want to be making sure that you either have a Penance or a Light's Wrath or a Halo to cast. So that is your major source of damage. Your Penance does a huge amount of damage for the 1 global cooldown it is. So it's really important that you have, you're following up your atonements with a Penance. So as you can see here, I've used my 2 innovates. I called out for them, and then I've just been weaving in my raptures between. And then the whole idea is just then making sure we're keeping up the dot, and then putting out damage when damage is coming. So I knew the slam was coming there, got out a few radiances. But yeah, as you can see, there is still quite a few gaps in my gameplay. I'm casting radiances at times where there's not going to be immediate damage coming after, so they are potentially wasted. But you still want to be prepared for when things happen. So as you get into a mythic fight, you have to diagnose parts of the fight where you're going to be doing effective healing, where you can be bursting, and you want to kind of be laying out in your head where you want to be casting these spells. So you'll find if you do this well, this is something that I think I'm pretty good at, is developing patterns, and then sticking to those patterns and trying to improve them, and then by analyzing what I'm doing, I can figure out, you know, better ways to say, you know, Rapture might be more efficient here, or, you know, my Innovate might be more efficient there, something like that. So it's all, you know, Disc is all about planning, and you'll find that, you know, once you kind of get that planning down, your results will kind of skyrocket. Now, it is a very hard spec to play. It's something that I've been playing for quite a while, and I am nowhere near perfect. There are a lot better Disc priests than I am, but I still managed to get pretty decent results, I would say. So, you know, there's hope for everybody if I can do it. So, one thing I would as well like to touch is your smite usage. So, alright, so now before anybody gets confused about what I mean by smite usage, now smite is actually not an inefficient spell to cast. Smite is, you know, does the same damage from mana that a penance will do, except that it does it in, you know, 4 times as long. So now what I did say in my previous guide is that, you know, you want to be using Smite as a filler spell. Smite to, you know, put out a constant stream of damage, because you're a hybrid. You do part damage, you do part DPS. But as times have changed, as DPS have gotten more gear, and you're relatively doing less damage as compared to what a DPS would do now, your damage is less prevalent and your mana becomes more important. So what does that mean for you? That means that casting Smite, like how I'm doing in this video here, just, you know, to be using globals, is in no way, shape or form ideal. You are actually just better off doing nothing, saving your mana, saving that 1% mana from using Smite for phases where there is a lot of damage that goes out. Now, that is, I don't think that is a fun and engaging kind of playstyle, but it is the way to get optimal healing as a Disc Priest. So, you know, just keep in mind that every single time you're using Smite as, say, a filler spell, it is actually using a decent amount of mana, and it's something that if you're having mana problems, especially if you don't have access to Blessing of Wisdoms and Innovate, that's maybe where you need to cut off some of your healing. Just say, you know, at the start of the fight, no, as a Disc Priest, I can't do, you know, my smites here just because I won't have mana later on. So, you know, and that's the only reason that I've changed my stance on that now, is because of how much your damage is doing relative to what other DPS are doing. So you're, you know, as I said, the gain from smiting is not as large as it once was. So you really want to try and be cutting back on the smites you're doing when you're not in any burst phase. Well, I hope that kind of makes sense, and I hope people learn something about the general principles of how to play Disc. I realize this is more of a sort of advanced guide for some people. I'm not going over what any of the spells do, but this is how I am currently approaching Disc in Nighthold. You know, getting into Mythic, it is something I will be planning out more, doing more in-depth sort of analysis of the fights I'm doing, you know, where I can improve, and kind of just going over the process that I take to improve on some fights. I think it's also very important to know that, you know, without proper planning for fights, it is very hard to get good results as Disc. You know, even if you've been playing it for a long time, like I have, there is a significant disparity between, you know, when I first attempt a fight to when, you know, I've done a fight, you know, 50 times. You know, I think this was very valid, say, on something like Ursoc. You know, once we've done Ursoc, say 30 times, you know, you learn where the burst phases are. You know, your healing kind of goes from bottom of the barrel to twice as much as the next healer, just because you know where to put out a lot of healing. You know how to use your cooldowns effectively, and you know you're not getting punished for, say, casting, you know, Light's Wrath at the wrong time, etc., etc. So, yep, hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.